Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we started work on our new orbital station on a solar orbit. Now, of course, all we need at this point is 4,000 units of liquid fuel in our station. And how much do we have? Well, let's find out. We currently have... Okay, this is not as scaled as I was hoping on the X-Science selected object, but okay. Everything else should be pretty much scaled the way it is supposed to be, but it looks like we have 1456 on there currently. So we have about 25% of what we need. Fantastic. So let's just send up a fuel subsystem. And we are going to open up the VAB here as soon as the game starts properly responding. Fantastic. And what are we going to send up here? Well, we're going to send up... not this. I can tell you that. We're going to send up something new, and it's going to be running off of the M001 Remote Guidance Unit. Wonderful. So with that in there, let's just go ahead and make sure that we're going to have comms on this. That's going to be pretty important. I am going to put an RA2 relay antenna in, and it would appear that not all of the text is scaled up. But I managed to get most of it scaled up. Fantastic. That's something that is not particularly important, I suppose. But let's go ahead and hop into our fuel tanks here, and we're going to need a Jumbo 64 tank. Now that, plus this, has enough. This would have to be empty. Completely empty. I'm also going to want to move our antenna, and in fact, maybe not run this relay antenna. Maybe I just want... what's the range on this? Maybe I just want a communitron like this one, and I'll put it over on this side. Okay. Now, as far as power goes, we are going to have another group of Gigantors here, because the entire purpose of this is, of course, to be a solar system, right? Oh, this KER down here isn't fixed either, but it's supposed to be. Well, actually, I think I know why that's not fixed, and I can fix that later on. So we're going to do something like this. Excellent. And then we're going to need a docking port up here. So we will need a Clampatron docking port, like so. I'm going to move this set of Gigantors down a bit, and we'll just have them be grouped up like this. And just for future expandability, if we decide to, we will put on, say, 4 docking ports somewhere down here. That should work. Now, once again, this is going to have to be close to full when we dock it up. So that's definitely something that's going to be interesting, but we do need more fuel there, or at least more fuel capacity. So let's go ahead and put in a nice, efficient engine, like a Poodle, on here. Fantastic. And we've got power generation. We don't really have power storage on here. That is something that I would like to have. We don't have power storage on the other. Not like we're ever going to be occluded from the sun. That's kind of the whole point here. But we're going to do something like that as some power storage. As far as how that power gets back to Kerbin or Ethiopia, don't worry about it. It does. That's all you need to know. Okay, you know what? It's actually bothering me too much, this down here. I actually need to go into KER here and go into the settings and see here, GUI size is currently set to 7. That is correct. And this should be modifiable, but maybe not from this screen? Maybe not. I know how to do it from the main screen. And you can see here, this KER is scaled up, but for whatever reason, this text down here is not. And I'm wondering if that maybe comes in from X-Science? This is definitely something I should have done before we... this has the UI scale as well. This is definitely something that I should have done before before starting this up, but I thought I got everything. This here is something I would like to fix, and I'll look to do that for next episode. For now, we will just get this ready to lift off. So we're going to need a TD12 decoupler here. Or actually, a TD25 is what we're going to need. And then I'm simply going to lift this with... Do we want to try to get away with this? Like, this is one tall rocket. Maybe instead of Rockamax, we should go up to a slightly different size. Like, go to a Kerbidine size. Something like this. We could just straight up dock with this. This right here is enough. You know what? Let's take all of these off of here. And let's just go to the Kerbidine size. So we're going to need a couple of adapters here, right? We are going to need... Not that adapter. We're going to need that adapter up to the Rockamax size, I believe. And then we're going to need the Kerbidine adapter, which is... Where are you? I know you're in here somewhere, Kerbidine adapter. There. That one there. And these, of course, hold fuel of their own. They hold almost the same amount of fuel that is currently in the station on their own. And then we could run the... That's way too small. We could run the Kerbidine tank here. We would want to run... Oh, that's not quite Kerbidine size, is it? Oh, there are two different Kerbidine sizes. Aha! So... I mean, that's not what we're looking for. I can tell you that right now. So, the question then becomes... I just do that. It's spelled with an E for one thing, which tends to help. Okay, nope, not that size. Not this size either. That's Mark 3 to 2.5 meter. This is the one that we want. Okay, fantastic. This is an engine cluster adapter tank. I see. So then if we were to run, say, quad mainsails... the mainsails wouldn't do the trick, of course. But for a lifter, perhaps vectors would. Now this, of course, isn't ultimately what we want. And we'd want, like, one central... This is like a Saturn V sort of setup here. We'd want to get this to snap in like that. So yeah, this would be like a Saturn V setup, except we'd probably want slightly larger engines for the Saturn V. Maybe not. What would that thrust to weight be? Plenty. So then, if on top of that, we were to put in... do something like this. We were to put in the big old Kerbidine tank. That's 1.14 thrust to weight. So that's a little on the small side. I think what we would actually end up doing is we'd be looking for a big vacuum-optimized engine. Not the Kodiak, I can tell you that. Let's see here. The Corgi? The Corgi is a little on the small side, actually, still. We would want an even bigger engine. I mean, the Mammoth is on the small side. We could simply run a Corgi. It's an option. Now, this would not have very much thrust to weight, but it would have fantastic delta V. Look at that, 7228. I mean, in theory, that could work. We would want to put our docking ports back on, of course. Something like that. And then our Gigantors would go on here, here. They look pitifully small, don't they? Like, hilariously small. We'd probably want some form of reaction control on here. So I'm going to put in a advanced inline reaction wheel. That's actually a little too big, but I'm actually going to roll with it. And we're going to place that down a little lower. So it's going to go like that. That's too big. Goes there. And then like that. Slightly awkward, but it should do the trick. And then we're going to want a monoprop tank. That should do the trick. And then we're going to put in some RCS controllers here. What's the maximum thruster? 0.1, 1.0, 1.0, 0.1. So it would be these guys. I kind of feel like with something this size, we need 8 thruster blocks. Like that. Now this is quad coupled. This does not need to be quad coupled. Just do something like that. Excellent. And then we would need a decoupler down here. And it would be one heck of a decoupler needed. So we would need to have something like... What would that be? A TD50? Yeah, this is kind of hilarious. We're definitely going to need some struts on this joint. I think there's no doubt about that one. And then as far as the fuel to get this thing in, this is a ludicrously heavy lift. Like, ludicrously heavy lift. We'd do something like this. It's very expensive. We would need struts here, for sure. Like, I feel like this is overkill, but overkill is kind of one of my favorite things about KSP, so we'd do something like that to maintain our structural integrity there. And then as far as this goes down here, we could just simply put in the adapter tank. Raise this up a little bit. This is ludicrously sized. This is ludicrously sized. What is this thrust to weight? 0.00, because this is wrong. This one needs to be moved into its own and fired up here. In fact, fired in this stage. 0.47. So, I mean, the vectors could work as exterior engines. Here's what I'm thinking. We actually need an engine plate here. So, we're going to do an engine, that's not how you spell, engine plate. And we're going to need like a 5-meter engine plate? No, we're going to need like a 3.7-meter engine plate here. We're going to have this be 6x1? That actually works. For shocking reasons. We'll need to put one in the center first. Like that. And then run the 6x1s. Like that. Okay, so obviously we'd have some gimbaling issues here in reality, but I mean... That is kind of silly looking, isn't it? And that's only 1.02 thrust to weight ratio. So we would also... Oh wait, hang on. That might help. It's still only 1.02 thrust to weight ratio. So we would still need some strap-on SRBs to help us get going. This is hilarious. Like, look at how much fuel is in this. This is so much overkill. This is ludicrous amounts of overkill. You know what? I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take this off as well. All of these, they're coming off. It's too much overkill. It's too much overkill. We're going to take that off, and we're going to back off here to this Kerbodyne tank. No, not this Kerbodyne tank. This Kerbodyne tank. That is enough fuel. That should be more than enough fuel. Okay, so we're going to connect this in here like that. And then we're probably going to do a 3.7 meter decoupler here. So like this. Yes, that's much better. And then we're going to move that fuel in the adapter down over here. Which adapter was that? This guy? No. It was, in fact, the one with the, like, checker mark pattern. Or not quite checker mark, but it was... Which adapter were you? You know what? I'm going to do it this way. And it was this guy. Okay. There we go. And I'm noticing that we do not have our connectors up here. So we're just going to slot those in. Oh, that doesn't reach. Okay, maybe from here? Yes, that works. So we'll just make sure that that joint is strutted together. And now this should be slightly less hilariously overkill. And this will also be way, way easier to lift. So we'll put these guys in like this. I'm actually going to move them up just a little bit here. There we go. And then we're going to need our docking ports. Those will go in about there. These struts will, of course, detach. And then we'll put in our communitron. Actually, I'm thinking about putting in the communitron, like, inline up here. But I changed my mind. I'm just going to put it here. Okay, so if these are extended, we don't have a lot of space here, right? So I'm actually just going to have 2 of these expansion ports. Like so. And I'm going to move it up ever so slightly to, like, here. There we go. Okay, this is still ridiculous. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at this, this is now at 1.28. This is still wildly overkill, and I kind of want to ditch this because look at how expensive that is, all those vectors. I want it to be a little cheaper than that. So what can we get away with? We could put a mammoth on here. It's a little on the small side. We could also maybe put in an engine plate and have that be a 5-meter fairing, and have this be maybe like, not really 4x1. I want it to be quad mainsails. Let's see what that looks like. That should be a lot cheaper than all those vectors anyway. That is a lot cheaper. 0.75 thrust to weight. I mean, that's not shocking. That's a long, long burn, though. We could maybe ditch this tank. $1.21? Yeah, this is more reasonable. I'm not going to say it's reasonable. It's more reasonable. We can also strap on a couple of SRBs to boost up this initial thrust to weight and increase our lift capacity here. And I'm actually going to strap them on over on this side here. And we're going to want just the biggest that we've got, which I believe are the Clydesdales, right? Yeah, it should be the Clydesdales. We'll attach that like so, and we'll adjust this height in a little bit. Actually, we definitely need to attach this down here, like so, and then we will move this guy on up to about here. This is definitely hanging down the side a little bit, so we'll just move that up to be about there instead. We will need some aerodynamic nose cones on this. I believe that is these lads. No, wait, this is the bigger one. It is not this one, but rather this one. Fantastic. Also, you may have noticed I updated ReStock or ReStock Plus, I'm not sure which, and our interstage fairing here, or not really fairing, but our interstage here is actually rendering properly now. So that's wonderful. We want all of these to burn simultaneously, like so. That's plenty of thrust to weight. Fantastic. We are going to need to strut these together, of course. And if we have to refuel this, we can. Not the end of the world. But I don't think we'll need to. If we come up here, we can strut this, say, up here. That's really awkward looking, and I'm actually going to change the angle of these. And we'll have them come in, say, here. And then these will come in here, like that. Is this bicoupled? I believe this is bicoupled. Okay. Let's have it come in a bit more like that. So that should be pretty stable. Aerodynamically is another story, though. So, aerodynamics. This is going to be interesting, for sure. We're definitely going to want some fins on this. There's no doubt about that. Do we want just tail fins? Like, Delta Deluxe winglets are probably not going to do the trick here. The tail fins are probably going to look pretty awkward. There's the big spaceplane fins, and I think those are a little overkill, honestly. So let's think about perhaps going with simply our good old friend, the Tailfin. And where are you, Tailfin? I know you're in here somewhere. Do it this way. Okay, so the Tailfin is, of course, this guy. Yeah, that's a little on the small side, but we could put it, say, here. As things burn out, the aerodynamic forces will go that way. And let's just see how this ends up going if we put it, say, here. That'll make us a little bit more maneuverable at start, or rather, a little bit more stable at start. And as we go up, we'll get more and more maneuverable. I do want to check this engine, the Corgi here. I want to actually go into here, and I want to be sure that it has gimbaling. I've never used the Corgi before. I want to make sure it has gimbaling, and it does have an alternator. That's good to know. It does gimbal. Also good to know. Okay. Well, this is definitely cheaper. Not cheap, but it's cheaper. And you can definitely see that these mainsails are sticking out a bit. I'm wondering if maybe we should downgrade our mainsails. Do like, say, skippers. Where are the skippers in this? It's the torch. That's the skipper. Okay, so we could maybe ditch these mainsails and run skippers instead. That's still a little too big. Okay, so we need, like, the step-down version. I mean, we could run vectors. Quad vectors would be... Hang on. Only slightly more expensive than quad mainsails. I feel like that would do the trick. I mean, these are some really awkward stubby tail fins, right? I would really prefer that they go, like, here. That's going to make us really maneuverable at the start, I feel like, but maybe the vectoring solves that. I mean, we could try to have more vectors on this. We could fit more vectors. But we don't need them, and that'll just drive up costs. I think this is going to work, but I want to test the aerodynamics. I don't want to save it as this. I want to save this as the fuel module. Okay. So I want to test the aerodynamics here. This will be reverted. This is a simulated flight. I just want to see how the aerodynamics and the thrust to weight feels, as well as burn time on our bottom stage there. This is the heaviest lift rocket we've done yet. I think this is heavier than our Eve ascent stage. Oh, these apparently default to extended. Wait, what? They're retracted. I guess that's a little bit of a bug with maybe the new version of ReStock or something. But we're just going to get all of these retracted, make sure they're actually retracted. There we go. We don't want them extended when we take off. This is just a simulation, though. Okay, so shall we see what happens? So all of this should fire at basically the same time here, and these two would detach separately. Sounds good to me. Up we go. A little low on that initial thrust to weight, but the... Ooh, even with these struts, that's a lot of wiggle in this. Okay, that's good to know. How's it work? If we stress test the prograde, this is not the ascent trajectory we would take. I want to make this more extreme. So I'm going to just pop on over to prograde, and we'll see how that goes. That seems to maintain control fairly well. Again, this isn't the ascent trajectory that I would take. This appears to have cleaned up a little bit. I think what we're seeing here is the version of Scatterer that I have installed hasn't updated in a while. Everything else I updated here, but I think Scatterer needs an update. I'll look into that after this episode. So aerodynamically, this appears to be pretty good. Right? I mean, we've got some awkwardness going on here for sure, but I think overall it's not too bad. And we don't have a KER on this, so I would have to go into here to see our apoapsis and periapsis. Let's ditch that. That took a couple of fins with it, just because of the angle of attack here. They detached basically going that way, rather than going straight up, because our thrust to weight dropped dramatically there. However, we've still got a lot of delta V here. This definitely feels slightly underpowered with the 4 vectors. We could maybe go to 4+1 vectors. I think that would be a viable thing. But we're holding attitude well, even with losing the 2 tail fins, so that's a good sign. And we've still got a good amount of burn here. Like, I feel like we get into orbit with just this stage, which is what I was hoping for. We don't have that much fuel up here that we can spare. Okay, we're definitely picking up a shimmy here. Our apoapsis is still a little on the low side, but again, I didn't take a great ascent trajectory. I was stress testing the aerodynamics instead. Let's just do stability assist here. We're definitely underpowered on this stage. There's no doubt about that one. As you can see by the fact that our apoapsis is still in atmo here. Okay, so I think we learned what we needed. As I said, that was always going to be reverted. Okay, a few lessons learned. 1. I think these struts were sufficient, but I want to add another one. I want to add a strut from up here, connecting to here. And I want that to be symmetrical. There we go. Something along the lines of that. So we'll strut those together to add a little bit more stability. And then I want to take this to a 4+1 instead of a quad. So something like this. We'll add in another vector engine, and that should, in theory... Oh, that didn't go. I think because we are in symmetry here. Yeah, there we go. That should, in theory, add quite a lot more power to that stage. It does add a little cost, to be sure. But I mean, we were capable of orbit previously. We were just a little low in our thrust to weight from the get-go. I'm also thinking about maybe quad-coupling these SRBs. We haven't really needed to do that. And if we do that, we're going to have to be a lot more careful with our ascent trajectory. But have it be something like this. I think that might be slightly better for us. So yeah, that would be 1.62 thrust to weight ratio off the ground. We're probably going to have to throttle down with this as we pass through max Q, but I feel like this is a more reasonable rocket. It's a little bit on the spendy side for sure, but how much are we going to make from this contract? Let's save that and head out here, and let's just see how much this is going to make us. Are we going to be profitable? I mean, the actual station was pretty cheap, right? The Rockamax parts, they're fairly economic. These Kerbidine parts, not so much. Oh yeah, we're going to be profitable. That's fine. We're going to be absolutely profitable. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this. That is, however, a job for next episode. Oh yeah, we got this. Fantastic. That is, however, a job for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and next episode, we are going to launch this to go rendezvous with our existing station. See you all next time.